Yesterday, the U.S. Senate voted 64 to 34 to take up a gun control measure that has been the subject of bipartisan negotiations. Text for the 80-page bill was released just an hour or two before yesterday's vote. And now the legislation is on a fast track, with proponents hopeful that it will be signed into law next week after passing the Senate and the House. So what is in the bill, and why did only 14 Senate Republicans vote for it last night? Here to talk about this and more is Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri. He serves on 4 Senate committees, including Armed Services Committee, the Committee on Homeland Security, and the Judicial Committee. Senator, welcome back to the program.
Tony, thanks for having me.
All right, the bill was voted on by, it was voted on with just very little time to read it. Isn't that a problem?
Yeah, you'd think you'd want to read a bill pretty carefully before you vote on it, particularly one that affects people's fundamental rights. And the Second Amendment is a fundamental right. The United States Supreme Court has said that. It's right there in the U.S. Constitution. And listen, this is a classic Washington game. This bill was negotiated behind closed doors for weeks on end. Nobody could see what was going on. Nobody knew what was in it. And then about an hour before we voted, it gets dropped in our lap, and we're told, vote it through and read it later. And Tony, I'm never going to do that. But just as bad as what's in the bill. The bill gives money to states that have these red flag laws where you can have law-abiding citizens have their gun rights taken away from them without a showing of a crime, without being convicted of a crime. 19 states already have them. Many of them do not have due process protections, Tony, and they're going to get funding out of this bill. And other states will be paid to set up their own red flag laws. So for that reason alone, I'm going to be a no.
So, Senator, correct me if I'm wrong, but the structure of these red flag laws, now I know they say it requires due process, but the structure of it appears to me that you're guilty until proven innocent.
Oh, that's exactly right. And the way that this works in terms of the procedure is that somebody can go into court and say that so-and-so is a danger and should have his guns taken away, and without the chance to defend himself in court or to have a lawyer present in court, that person can lose his Second Amendment rights. This is no crime, no conviction of a crime, just an accusation. Right. And in some states, Tony, it doesn't even have to be a law enforcement officer or a mental health professional who makes the accusation. It can be a former boyfriend, a former girlfriend. It can be a former spouse. Right. It could be anybody, coworker. And this bill would reward and fund all of that.
Now, there's a lot of focus in this bill beyond the red flag laws to mental health issues. And I'm always looking for the unintended consequences of legislation that's passed so quickly, like this one. And my question for you, Senator Hawley, could there be an unintended consequence of this legislation of discouraging people who need counseling or mental health care from seeking that, fearful it could be used against them?
Well, I do worry about that. And I really worry about the interpretation of this bill. I'll just say that I've heard some of the bill's leading advocates disagree among themselves about what precisely is in the bill and how it works. That is not an encouraging sign. So this is very significant legislation. It's going to be the biggest changes to federal gun law in 30-some years. And it is being rushed through at the 11th hour. And what we do know about it, frankly, isn't good. And here's the other thing, Tony. What we need to be focused on here are the criminals. We need to be focused on gun crime, people who bring guns to crimes, people who commit crimes with guns. This bill doesn't focus on that. It doesn't do anything to make our streets safer or our neighborhoods safer or put more cops on the street. It does none of that. And to me, that's just a huge, huge missed opportunity and wrong focus.
And again, it also brings more of the federal government into the public school system with Medicaid and with counseling. And I think that could be problematic. We've got enough problems with the federal government in our public schools. This could make it even worse. In fact, I understand that there's language here regarding Hyde Amendment to keep the schools from doing what they've been doing and promoting abortion.
Yeah, I know that Hyde was a big sticking point during the negotiations, Tony, or at least that's what I'm told. Again, I'm not privy to any of this. We have to read about it in the newspaper. But I'm told that Hyde was a big sticking point at the end of the negotiations. And I come back to the fact that, even the folks who are supporting this bill disagree among themselves on how it will work. and how it will actually operate, what the implications of it will be. So in this environment, when we are in the middle of a national crime wave, you have a bill that does not actually focus on crime, but instead makes changes to fundamental rights. Why are we doing this?
You're right. Absolutely. I mean, you're right. We're in the middle of a crime wave. As the former Attorney General for the state of Missouri, you understand the effects of crime. We should be going after lawbreakers, not restricting the rights of law-abiding citizens. Senator Josh Hawley, always great to talk with you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.